Welcome back and Happy New Year to all of you. I'm tremendously excited for us to kick off 2022 with an exciting session. I've been really looking forward to presenting this to you. I've prepared some slides and got a great session. You're not going to want to miss this. You're probably going to want to take some notes too, because no exaggeration, this can be the type of presentation and training that can forever alter the course of your productivity as a grad and beyond. Those of you who don't know me, we've got a lot of new members in the group. I'm Professor David Stuckler, and I set up this community really to provide the valuable support that you need to thrive as a grad. And I did this because this is the training that I wish I would have had as a grad on writing, on productivity, on networking, because I came from a small school. I didn't have support structure in place, and just about every bump on the road, every landmine I feel like I stumbled into, whether I was panicking, having my back against the wall for a deadline and pulling all-nighters, getting in a burnout cycle, or not having support and guidance or knowing who to turn to, or getting stuck on my writing and going endlessly in circles for hours, not being able to define a topic. So what I want you to do, our new members, is go straight to the guide section. No exaggeration, you're going to find over 50 hours of training, deep training on these topics for all the things that you need to do to thrive. This is open access. I want to make it available to everybody to help you do well, feel good, and be your very best. And this training is part of that, because I get so many people asking me, Professor Stuckler, you're so young, how have you published over 400 articles in peer-reviewed journals? What's your secret? That's what I'm going to share with you today, what I call the optimization of one. And it's gotten not just me, but it's gotten a lot of my coaching students who I work with tremendous results going forward, helping them to finish faster than they even anticipated so they could spend more time with their families, train at the gym, do yoga, the things that they love doing. You get this right, you're going to unleash a lot of productivity for yourself. So with that, I just, again, join in the chat. Let me know, what you're doing to start your new year. It is cliche to say, new year, you look back, you look forwards, but it's cliche for a reason. There is something that we all need to do. We know this is a natural transition in our lives, to take stock and to think, what are we going to do better? How are we going to achieve our goals? How are we going to create an action plan and a roadmap for going forward? And so few grad students who I talk to, especially those in the group, actually have a roadmap, have a clear action plan, have a strategy for achieving your goals, or even having mapped out those goals in the first place. So if you haven't done that, make sure you do that. Incredibly important, and a step that so many grads just gloss over and don't do, and they find themselves stumbling from one point to another. So let me dive straight in. Optimization of one. Really excited to share this with you. That's because it's really helped me stay on track, and it's also because as grads, it's so incredibly common for you to feel like you're pulled in many directions, that you don't know where to go. That your supervisor is saying, hey, I need you to work on this literature review, or I need you to do this lab protocol, or, oh, hey, can you help me with this conference? And you get advice from different directions saying, hey, it's really going to be important for you to participate in this workshop or this seminar, or hey, what you really need to do is make a little bit of progress on a few of your chapters. You have so many things that you need to do as a grad, from upgrading your skills to building your network to participating in conferences. You can really feel like you're completely stretched. And let me tell you, this gets worse. If you're already feeling this now as a grad student, you really need to get a handle on this, because when you're an assistant professor down the road on the tenure track, it's even worse. You got to sit on committees, you got to write grants, you got to find talented students and interview them, you got to teach new courses for the first time. You're getting pulled in even more directions. So if you're struggling now, you want to nip this in the bud, because that feeling that you have is going to get worse as you advance and go on to the next level of your career. And so when I think about the way you can structure your life and the work that you're doing to try to do this, we get into optimization one. But what I really want to highlight for a lot of you is just really how a lot of you are at this particular point in your lives that's really quite unique as a graduate student. I just want you to take stock of that for a second and really, and I want to draw this for you on a whiteboard here, because this this is a very unique point that you're possibly never going to have again. And I just want to share this here. So just to give you an image of this, you can kind of think about your work as being in a funnel that looks something like this. And in the top of this funnel, you are a student and you're taking in information, maybe you're preparing for exams and doing the things you have to do to show that you've learned. And right now, you're really at a transition point in this funnel. You're about right here, and you're making this transition from taking in new knowledge and remembering it, regurgitating, show you've got mastery, to now starting to produce at this other end of the funnel, where what you're going to be expected to do is start not just being a consumer of knowledge, but an active producer of knowledge. And most of you are right here, and the PhD is really this bridge to merging onto the other side of making that transition. Some of you that already starts at the master's level, but for the vast majority of you, that's going to be at the PhD. And that's a really unique point, because often at earlier stages where you're a consumer, there's a lot of structure already in place, and it's very clearly laid out what you need to do. You do this class, you study, you take these steps, and you're going to get a result. Suddenly, when you have to produce and add to the frontier of your field, it's very easy to get overwhelmed, feel unconfident, and feel small when you see all of what's out there. And so that's why it's very important to adhere to the strategy that I call Optimisation One, because it's really natural to feel lost at this stage. And when I think about economies, because some of my background training, I really loved economics as an undergrad, there are different ways to think about what you're optimizing in how that can work for you. So, one of the first principles about economies of scale. And this is the base idea that if you are producing a lot, that you can have multiplicative benefits to get more out of it. And this is really, you see economies of scale, and Henry Ford was a big architect of this in producing cars, and he set up factory lines where to have economies of scale and really get the benefits out of producing, making lots of cars, making them cheaper. He said people having this factory line of production where, say, one person's job was to put together the wheels, another person's job was maybe to weld different parts, and they all have these little mini parts in the conveyor belt of the factory line. And this can be extremely good and an extremely helpful way to organize. But what I see so often happen for graduate students is that they're part of somebody else's economy of scale. That they might be a cog in this wheel that is great for their supervisor's lab, but may not be getting you the skills, getting you the publications, and the things you need to do to really thrive. So economies of scale is one way to think about organizing, and it's really that factory line of production. And often for a lot of people, you can imagine if you're just pipetting all day, it can get very demoralizing, can get very boring. So it's one that tends to really create some problems for grads in sustaining productivity. The other kind of economy is economy of scope, and you see this when you go maybe to fill up your car with gas. And gas stations, they don't just make so much money on the gas, but they make money on all the corollary things that you might buy. You might buy a pack of gum, or you might buy some water, maybe some junk food or donuts. Don't recommend getting lots of junk food for your productivity. Give you a sugar spike. But this is a kind of economies of scope that actually by doing a lot of different things, you can be more productive than by just doing a smaller series of things. And I see grad students do this a lot as well. Sometimes having the idea, well, I'm going to be, a jack of all trades, but a master of none. I'm going to dabble here or there. I'm going to duck in. And I see a lot of students who work on, say, they're working on chapter 4. At the same time, they're working on chapter 1. At the same time, chapter 2. And they're doing a little bit of everything, but they're not really doing anything well. And so what I commonly see is these two tendencies. Some get pulled into somebody's economy of scale, and they're just a little cog in somebody's production line. This definitely happens a lot in the natural sciences. And economies of scope, I see this happening more on the humanities side, that students are just trying to do a little bit of everything, but not really doing anything well at all. And that's where I come with my strategy, the optimization of one, and really the economies of one. Because for you really to thrive as a graduate student, you don't want to be working on 20 chapters at once. You don't want to be a cog in the wheel of somebody else's machine that's promoting your supervisor's career, but maybe not yours. But you want to focus on the one thing that you need to be doing that's going to get you to where you want to go. Now, I often map this one thing you need to be doing over a 3-month cycle. And I tend to work on a 3-month cycle. There was a famous economist, John Maynard Keynes, who said, over the long run, we're all dead. That we need to focus on the short term. And 3 months are a manageable block to break up the kind of big mountain you have in PhD or big research endeavors into manageable chunks. And you need to define, and I want you all to think about this, what is the one thing that you need to do and accomplish over the next 3 months to be on track and to be successful? Maybe it's something, yeah, but I have to do a conference. I have to go read this literature, this project. No, think about it. For most of you, this might simply mean I finished my systematic literature review chapter. For some of you, it might mean I finished my my chapter 3, which is maybe a quantitative or qualitative chapter of your PhD. You have the time and the focus of your PhD to really optimize this one important thing. And if you're not making progress on that, I don't want you to take on other things that can distract you. And what so often happens with students is when this one thing is hard and it's often the thing they need to do, that their mind just distracts you and pulls you away into something that's maybe easier to do and maybe more enjoyable, but it's not the one thing you need to do. And I think if all of you reflect, you'll know what your one is. And I'd love to see you comment below. Let me know what is your one. If you think about it, if you step back and think for a second, this term, as you're working, what is your one? And I'm actually just checking the stream now. I'm just checking the stream now, and I'm realizing my slides are not displaying the way I want, or there's just a potential lag here. And it's clearly not showing. What's showing on the Facebook stream is not here, so I'm going to try to share this in another way. Okay, now. Okay, there's a lag. I don't know if these slides were showing in sync as I was showing to you. We have had a few, and I apologize for this. We have had more than a few technological glitches today. Unfortunately, this is not the norm for us. A lot of software reset into the new year. I'm going to try to share the screen in a new way and see if that works a little bit better. Let's try this. Okay, you're going to see my profile here for a second as we set up. Let me get out of all this, come back this way and see if this will then work. Okay. Yeah, so I want all of you to step back for a second and think about what your one is, because there's tremendous value that you're going to get in going through start to finish on a project from the very beginning to the very end. And so many students just they haven't optimized and they don't get anything done. They don't complete. They get to the 80% mark on a project and they're on to the next. Maybe they got bored or something else popped up, and they have this graveyard of papers and notes and things that are just partly completed. And there's tremendous value in keeping this laser-like focus on your one so that you can finish. So I want you all to think about this, because this one is going to be like a North Star for you. If you don't have this one, it's so easy to get pulled off track. So you define, okay, I want to be going to London. You need to set that chart so that if you end up veering off course and you're going towards Berlin or Frankfurt, you know what you need to do to adjust to get back onto it. But if you don't have that defined, if you haven't set out your North Star, it's all too easy when the winds come and the challenges come to you as a grad student to get knocked off course and not even realize it. So with this one, you want to go start to finish. And when you go start to finish, it's incredibly important because you're going to encounter a series of micro hurdles along the way that you're going to need to deal with. And that's going to be from defining your topic. It's going to be around writing. It's going to be around getting the methods right and the skills you need to complete the project. But let me tell you, once you've gone start to finish on your paper or your chapter, whatever it is that one needs to be. For me, last term, my one was writing a grant proposal, which is a massive undertaking, hugely time consuming, big grant proposal for several million euros. And that was my one. And I knew that that's what I needed to execute to really thrive. And let me tell you, once you've done this, the first time is very hard, but the second time, third time gets easier to where you can almost do it in your sleep and you'll get more efficient at it. But you will never get those efficiency gains if you have never gone start to finish all the way through. Because what's going to happen? You try to pick it up and do it again later, you're going to hit that roadblock again the next time and the next time. You're eventually going to have to figure out how to troubleshoot these steps that you get stuck at, and you will get stuck in these micro hurdles. You're going to need to overcome them to really be your most productive going forward in the future. So you want to optimize that one. And one of the great things I find about that one is it really, when you have that focus, it's kind of like getting in the rhythm and getting in the flow. A bit like riding a bike, right? When you start riding a bike, you're going to fall off a few times, and maybe when you learn to ride a bike, when you fell down, what did you do? You didn't go say, okay, I'm just not made for riding a bike, or I'm too scared, I'm not going to do it. No, you picked it up and you kept going until you got at it. And that's what you need to do when you need to optimize your one. You said, okay, look, I'm going to learn to ride the bike. I'm going to learn to do my systematic review. I'm going to learn to do my natural experiment analysis. I'm going to learn to do whatever is the technique that you need to do in the lab at the moment, and really focus on that till you've achieved that mastery. You've got it in your toolkit, locked, ready to go for the future. And so then you ask, okay, but I still feel pulled many directions, right? I'm getting pulled into, my supervisor wants me to do this or that and be part of their economies of scale, but it's not my one. How can I do this? And so I want to share with you, some tips that are going to make it easier for you to stay focused. And these are just, again, some of the many things that you've got to do in optimizing your one to really thrive. And these are steps that maybe some of you are good at, but maybe others, I guarantee you might feel like, well, okay, maybe defining my impact topic, I feel great, but can I create beautiful tables and figures? No, maybe you're not good at that. These are all things that as you optimize your one, you're probably going to need to do as you go on the path of, for most of you, that's going to involve trying to get a paper publishable quality. So I've got a few simple steps and pieces of advice to help you stay focused on your one, now that hopefully you've begun to define it. And when you think about these steps, these are really good productivity tips, but you need to have defined your one to make them work. One is, you need an action plan. And you do need to identify the opportunities for you to be productive and thrive. And if you haven't seen our productivity training, the designing your perfect day, go straight to our guide section on productivity. Check that out. That's going to help you identify blocks of time, defend those blocks, figure out what you have to do to tap into in between spaces in your day, so you can really activate yourself to be your most productive towards your one. But you need an action plan, and you need some kind of design to get there. For a lot of people, well and good, it just falls into place, but that's a minority. Most people need a clear game plan and to really execute day after day after day to hit their one. So if you don't have one already, make one soon. You need a routine. And I've said this a lot, that and students I work with as well, 1 in 3 students don't finish. And that's a terrible loss on the investment you're making in yourself. And the reason is, they get on a burnout cycle. They get in these cycles where they start thinking, I can do everything, and really go at it full speed ahead, and only then realize, they're not sleeping, they're withdrawing from friends, they're not nourishing themselves, and they set themselves up for slowing down, and they can't sustain that pace. It's like if I decide I'm going to go run like Usain Bolt. Well, I can't even run like Usain Bolt, but I run my max for 10 seconds and you start getting out of breath, you're not going to sustain it. But what happens in this burnout cycles, then you start feeling frustrated and you push yourself even more, and you're not getting the results you want, and you feel more frustrated, and slowly you start getting on this burnout path to where you get to an ultimate crash. Then you withdraw and you lose months, maybe even years of time before you get back on the horse and you repeat the cycle again. And one of the best ways to break this is to set a realistic pace for yourself. It might feel slow at the beginning, but that's okay. If you've got your action plan, you know how much you're going to need to invest to get the result that you want. And you need a routine. That routine is important because look, I mean, as I remember being a student pulling all-nighters, and then kind of it was like eating my future because the next few days I was dead and I felt terrible. And I was beating myself up, and it was really not good for my mental health. If you create a routine and a structure, that's what most people need to really be their best. Set a realistic pace, a routine, work within it, and you're going to be amazed. You're going to avoid that burnout cycle pitfall, and you're going to really unleash your productivity. So you need an action plan, you need a routine, and within that routine, I want you to have a daily to-do list. These to-do lists are incredibly effective. It's 100% free. It's easy to do, and let me tell you, by having my daily to-do list, I sleep like a baby because every night before I sleep, I can put on my to-do list what I need to do the next day. And then it's off my mind. I have physically removed from my mind what I need to do the next day because I have my action plan, I have my routine I'm going to fall into. I know when I'm going to get it done. It's there on my list, and I'm going to tackle it then, not when I need to rest and nourish myself. You need that list because that list is the same thing. It's going to keep you focused on your one throughout the day. And one of the important things in doing this as well in your to-do list is some of you say, well, my project's not really due for 15 months. Well, that doesn't mean you can't create a sense of urgency for yourself. And I do this with self-imposed deadlines. A lot of students I talk to, they have trouble reaching out to their supervisor and getting feedback from them. So what I often like to do is say, okay, contact your supervisor and say, hey, listen, what would be a good time to send your paper? When can I get your feedback? And commit them to giving you feedback at a certain date or a certain point in time that they've defined as convenient. And by doing that, you have self-imposed for yourself a deadline you've hit because you've now told your supervisor, I'm going to deliver this to you by this date, and make sure that you do it. And you really do need to make sure you respect these deadlines. You want to be, for me, it's very important that I'm a man of integrity, that I keep my word, that I adhere to deadlines and schedules. You don't want to violate your own core principles. It's not the way you want to live your life, and people won't respect you. So this habit starts now, and you can really unleash a lot of productivity by putting on yourself, on your terms, not somebody else's terms, a deadline. I get so many students who say, oh, the university just set this deadline on me that I didn't know about. You can avoid all that. Take back the control into your own hands, set your own deadlines, commit yourself to it. And that strategy is really important because it really comes down to a psychological principle between willpower and pre-commitment. And willpower is more like saying, okay, I'm strong, I'm mentally tough, I'm strong, I'm not going to eat the chocolate. So I have the chocolate bar next to me on the desk, and I'm looking at it, and I'm strong, I'm not going to eat it. But it's so much easier if you pre-commit yourself. Say, okay, I'm not going to eat the chocolate. So I put the chocolate bar in another room where I don't see it. And I'm not constantly having to rely on my willpower to resist the chocolate bar. And I want you to pre-commit yourself with these self-imposed deadlines rather than saying, well, I'm going to work really hard today. I'm work really hard today. No, that's fine. You might get distracted. I want you to pre-commit yourself with a deadline that you're going to respect. And one of the great things about these self-imposed deadlines is comes back to being pulled in many directions because people are going to ask a lot of you, and some of the things may benefit them, not you. By you having your one and a deadline, you can say, no, listen, very sorry, I've got a massive deadline that I've got to hit, and I'd love to take this on later, but I can't right now because I've got this important deadline. Now, they don't need to know that this is the deadline you set yourself. It becomes very real when you've set it with your supervisor or with somebody else and you're on the line. So that can really give you the power and the gift of saying no to those things that distract you from your one. So don't forget the value of self-imposed deadlines. So listen, again, thanks for bearing with me today because we had a whole bunch of technological snafus that normally don't happen. Growing pains in the beginning of the year. We've got a little bit of time for questions and comments. I'm going to take a look back over here in the stream and make sure things are going the way I want it to go. So yeah, we've got time for questions, comments. Let me know if any of this is clear. Do you use some of these strategies? Amina has mentioned, I'm just going to mention Amina here, says that a feasible to-do list, sometimes we just put in too much and don't end up doing what's there. And that's true, and that can make you feel bad. That's okay. You just just know that for your one, for example, I mean, I know we've worked together. You've said you have one big focus, which is you've got to get a research proposal done. And so to do that research proposal, you want to break it up into small chunks, right? Your to-do list for your daily to-do list, you don't want to have a daily to-do list with some impossible task that you can't get done. You need to break your task into a series of mini wins that can get you on a good cycle. So maybe that is that you need to get, for example, maybe you need to just have, okay, for your research proposal, you want to reverse engineer it and break it into what you need to do. Say you need to review the existing studies close to your research proposal, or maybe you need to draft the method section of that research proposal. That's a good mini win to get you on a cycle of success. So agree, you need to make a feasible to-do list so you don't say, okay, if I put on my daily to-do list, write my grant, that's not going to work. That's my one I'm going to optimize. And then you want to make an action plan to break it into bite-sized parts. So this brings into a question somebody else has made in the group. What's the difference between an action plan and a routine? Well, really, you want to think of kind of you've got your goal you want to get to, and you've got a plan of action, and you could reverse engineer from that goal. What do I need to do to get to that goal? What steps am I going to have to take along the way? And then to execute on a daily basis. That's your routine. So, for example, my personal routine, what do I have? So at night, I make my to-do list for the next day. So I get it off my mind, so I sleep really well. In the morning, just like an athlete, I have my routine. I have my rhythm. I practice gratitude in the morning. I usually do a little bit of stretching. I follow the no social rule, follow the design of your perfect day video, go to the guides, and that's going to give you ways to structure your day and to create a routine and a rhythm and a pattern that's going to really help you flow. But if you get into, for example, where you're trying to work, say one day you're working at 11 in the morning at a Starbucks, another day you're going to do your work at 10 at night from your bedroom, right? You're a bit all over the place, and you really want to train your body and your mind in preparing it for deep work. And you just can't get into deep work if you don't have a routine and a good structure to work within. So it's incredibly important. It's a really good question about the routine. Go check out the Designing Your Perfect Day, Architecture of Your Perfect Day training in the guide section of the Facebook group. If you haven't already, guys, do join the Facebook group. You're going to get a ton of value from the trainings that are there, especially on productivity, because I know that that's a really important thing for a lot of you. And John Clark mentioned, yeah, exactly. Execute on a daily basis. Once you've got a good game plan, you want to execute. It's just like those of you who play sports. When you go into a match, you need to have a plan, and then you want to execute. And you want to be able to break down where are things going off. Is it I didn't execute? Is it I didn't have the skills? Is it I just was having a bad day? That's okay. Give yourself a little grace. Or is it that your plan was off and you executed very well the plan, but the plan actually was not very well steered towards you getting to your goal? But a lot of you are just kind of flying blind, that you don't have any of these nuts and bolts in place, don't have a routine, don't have an action plan, don't have a defined goal, and you're just kind of setting yourself up for stumbling around a dark cave, not knowing where the end is, not knowing what finishing looks like, not being able to set healthy boundaries for yourself to stay focused, and can lead you down, and it's happened to me, to a burnout cycle. Question: how do you determine the amount of time each endeavor on your to-do list will take? Listen, that inevitably you're going to encounter a series of micro hurdles. So it's the first time you're doing it, and often you just don't know. And I do find oftentimes students I work with are not really realistic in estimating how much time it's going to take. Either they hopelessly overestimate, and that often happens when it's like a bogeyman in the closet that they're really scared of and is hanging over their head, and they think it's going to take them years, but they really, if they start executing on simple steps, can get it done fast. Or the other is they're overly optimistic and think they can get things done extremely fast, and then they don't, and then they feel bad. But they really had hopelessly unrealistic expectations in the first place. I know they're two extremes, but because you haven't done it before, it's sometimes very hard to know. And that's where having a really good mentor in your corner can help, because they can help steer you. They can help see and say, okay, you're getting off track, or this is really inefficient and unproductive. You need somebody like that in your corner who's watching out for you and is going to help you to execute to do your best. So if you don't have a mentor, that's really kind of the magic like sauce that's going to really help you unblock different parts of your productivity formula in Optimizer One. So, it's not always easy. The best way, I think, is to benchmark. How much time will it take? So, for example, having done many systematic reviews and helped many students at systematic reviews, I've got a good sense that if you follow the right steps and you benefit from the right courses, you can go start to finish to a publishable piece if you're working full time on it in under 2 months. All right, so you can then adjust. Well, if you're only working a few hours, you can then begin to calibrate. From your lab or from the other grads in your program, you can often be able to get an idea. Again, everybody's different. If you're not getting deep work, I mean, I know many students who spend hours in front of their computer, but they get nothing done, or they spend hours in lab and there's little productive. Where those who have really mastered the productivity fundamentals are amazing. Just an hour and a half, 2 hours, they can get more done than a lot of grad students in a whole day. And it's something I've learned over time. To be able to get into deep work very quickly will utterly transform your life. And it'll win your time back, time that you want to spend with friends, family, going to the gym, being healthy, doing other things, put you on a positive cycle. Got some other good questions coming through. Start by one thing, stick for it. They say 20, 25 days, but one thing at a time. Absolutely. That is the economies of one. That as a grad student, you have this special ability, right? As a professor, I can't say I'm not going to teach now. No, I've got to teach, right? I can't say right, I'm pulling more directions and I'm bound to do it. As a grad, you have a little more flexibility. You will get pulled in directions, but you want to try to optimize that one. And for a lot of you, that's going to be publishing papers and finishing the chapters of your PhD. Maybe that one for you is an essential tool that you need to master. Maybe it's you need to learn Python because you need to scrape data and you need to get really good at this tool. And you know that that's going to take you about 3 months to master. I like to, again, work on 3-month cycles. So I would encourage all of you as you start to the new year here, plan out over the next 3 months, what is at least that one that you need to hit. Make sure you're delivering on that before you begin to take on other things. If you're feeling good, you're making steady progress to that. So for example, to come back to Mina, you're making great progress on your research proposal. Now let's think about systematic review or other things you can do that we're getting steady, consistent progress, that you're allocating your deep work blocks and you're getting enough done. You maybe have an extra block of time, you can take on something else. But I do want you guys to understand, if you're on track or not, and that's where that roadmap action plan is going to help you. Here's somebody says, I would like to submit a systematic review in the next 90 days. Yeah, Susan, I know, and I'm 100% confident that you can do it. I know that personally, Susan, that one of the challenges has been because you're also you're responsible at the university for lectures and in classes. By the way, I really loved getting to know you in the group on a more personal basis. And Susan, you're fantastic having you in the community. For you to be able to submit the systematic review, it's very possible we've got to break it down into chunks. And I know you've got to find ways to protect your time from many demands. And Susan is actually an example for us of how you get pulled in so many directions when you're having to work full time and try to do grad studies and get research out at the same time. It gets really hard, really, really hard. So Susan, 100%, I'm confident that we're going to get you there. But realistically, you're going to need to find 5 deep blocks of work a week in your schedule to really hit that timeline, just based on my experience, for you to really fly, backed up with the right training courses in place. But I'm confident you can do it, Susan. Okay, we've got time for a couple more questions. Again, a big thank you for bearing with me on all the technological snafus. Today, start of the year, a lot of the systems have reset, but glad we got there in the end. I really want you guys to many others will be inspired by this as well. Tag below. If you haven't thought about it, come back and tag in the comments here what that one is you want to optimize. Abina, like I said, it's your research proposal. Susan, for you, that's going to be you want to do a systematic review, and you've defined it well. Let us know what you think that is. We got another one saying, how much time do you think is necessary for a deep block of work? So by deep blocks, again, head over to our productivity training. We're going to have some more coming up here in the new year. But usually a deep block of work is 2 to 3 hours. And inside that 2 to 3 hours that you've blocked off, where you really want to defend yourself from everybody, no interruptions, no distractions. I mean, if you could lock yourself in a room with no paintings, nothing on the wall, no stimulus, you really want to be able, just you and what you have to do, whatever that takes. It's like a mental muscle. You might not have developed it, but you get stronger and better over time. And so for deep work, that's when you need that indistractable work where you can really go deep on a topic. And when you start, you might only be able to do 30 minutes of deep work, and you might get mentally fatigued after that. That's okay. Over time, you can build up that capacity. It really is like a muscle. And I want you to start thinking about yourselves like mental athletes. That just like an athlete, you have a routine, you have things you do to prepare yourself for a match. Same thing, things you need to do to prepare yourself for deep work. It kind of that for some of you that might mean you need to have cleared your inbox. For some of you that might be a place that gets you in the zone. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but you absolutely do need to have a deep block of work. I like to think of the day as having 4 potential blocks, although I don't recommend you use all of them for deep work, and at least in 2 blocks of your day to get deep work in. And for many of you working, different structures of your lives, maybe you have children, when those blocks are going to be can vary. But ideally, I see you have a consistent pattern of getting deep blocks of work in. Incredibly important for you to be productive and succeed. So again, look in your schedule and see if where, I'm really glad, Nathan, that you asked that. Look in your schedule, have a hard look, Nathan, and see where you can find that time and defend it to the death. Let everybody know this is not the time to be interrupted. Shut off all the socials, shut down your social media, turn your phone on silent, and hide away from the world. And so, and let us know, Nathan, how far you get. Monitor yourself, just like I might monitor my heart rate during training because I want to keep my heart rate lower where possible. To know I'm being really effective and efficiently pumping blood and energy, exercising. Nathan, for yourself, start to track, right? How much deep work did I get done in this block? And try to improve over time. I mean, you might even treat it as a game to yourself. How much was I in this deep block was I able to get done this time? And say, okay, well, maybe I only got 15 minutes. Try to do 20 minutes next time. And get on that path of continuous self-improvement. But again, don't cripple or paralyze yourself by being hopelessly unrealistic. That I'm just gonna block off. Finally, I've got a Saturday. I'm gonna block off this time. I'm gonna work 9 hours to get it done. You're gonna find that's just not as effective as come up with a few deep blocks of work you can protect throughout the week. It's very hard for people to do high quality work, the kind of work that you're gonna need as a PhD. That's going to be publication level to just crash it and smush it all into a day. Even I would, I'm quite experienced. I would struggle to maintain that kind of focus. And I only very rarely now use a third block of deep work during the day because I can get, and truth told, when I can get into deep work, I can get about 80% of the deep work done I need in the day in one block. Saves tremendous time. Okay, guys, any last questions? I think we're getting to a good stopping point. Fantastic. We've got one more coming through here. I also wanted to make the announcement. We're going to close voting for our challenge that's going to come up in the group this week, where we're going to go step by step, starting from 0 to producing a publishable paper in under 2 months. We're going to do step-by-step training. And most of that voting so far has been for systematic reviews. I'm going to confirm it for all of you on Monday, but you're not going to want to miss that challenge. We had last year from the challenge of those in the group, we had several students go on submit their papers, and some of them have now been published. Right, it's unlikely that it would get published in that timeline. It has happened, but it's rare. But still, for your goal, the things that you can control, getting that paper done in 2 months, imagine how good you'd feel going through a systematic review challenge, having your review done in 2 months. No, I'll give more details on that later, but continue the voting. We may still shift to a qualitative paper or quantitative paper, but right now the bulk of you have voted for systematic reviews, so that's likely where we're going to go. One question here. I did that once during studies. My family ended up calling a friend who came looking for me because they couldn't reach me. Remember to warn your family you're not answering your phone. Yeah, that's happened to me too. I check my phone, and then my mom would be like, "Give me a life sign. Are you alive? Did you die? What happened?" And start freaking out. So that's okay. You got to also, I remember feeling like my friends at the beginning. I didn't tell my friends either, and I started to feel like a bad friend because they're like, "Well, why aren't you answering us? You're leaving our messages unanswered and unread. What's going on?" And I just explained to him, look, guys, there's just this block of time that I really got to focus on some things I got to do. They're going to understand. You're doing a PhD. You're doing grad studies. You're doing deep research. They get it. They expect that of you. But just let your friends and family know, and they will respect it for you. And this all goes into for yourself setting healthy boundaries, and you need to set those boundaries in your life, or you're going to get pulled into somebody else's economy of scale or economy of scope. So set those boundaries, set these deadlines, and by doing that, you're able to say no. Um, Sometimes when it's hard to say no, look, I can't. I have this block of work that I've lined up that I've got to get done for this deadline that you've set, and it's going to make it easier to say no. And this is something I know that especially early grad students really struggle to say no. And once you can get it, once you can learn to say no, people will actually respect you more. They may not like it at the beginning, but they will respect you more. So, guys, that's a good place to stop. I hope you all have a fantastic week. Again, every Friday at the same time, same place. Look forward to joining you here on Fast Track Grad. Head over to the guides. Make use of the resources there. And if some of you are struggling to define your one, or struggling to figure out how to make an action plan or develop a good routine, apply for 100% free call with me. I like to get to know everybody in the group, like Susan, Amina, and others. Nathan, really nice meeting you. Scott, really great to have you be part of the community, mutually benefiting each other. Apply for that call. I'd love to chat, get to know each of you a little bit better, and connect you to some of the right resources just for you. Again, great week. Look forward to seeing you next Friday.